In the dead of night, the city of Alaris was under siege. But the attackers hadn't counted on the city's most elusive defender. As shadows danced on the walls, a figure moved unseen, and a single message was sent out: activate Echo Protocol. What followed was a battle of wits and survival like no other. The futuristic city of Alaris, known for its towering buildings and neon lights, was a hub of activity even at night. But on this particular night, the vibrant cityscape was replaced by chaos. Alarms blared through the streets, and the once bustling roads were eerily empty. High above, alien ships cast ominous shadows as they descended upon the city. The initial shock of the attack sent civilians scrambling for cover, their faces reflecting the neon lights mixed with terror. In the heart of Alaris, Captain Aiden Cross, a retired military strategist, was jolted awake by the cacophony. His instincts kicked in immediately. Despite being retired, the skills honed through years of combat had not dulled. Aiden quickly assessed the situation and realized this was no ordinary attack. The Dravians, an alien species known for their ruthless tactics, had launched a surprise assault. Aiden had always been a man of action. Even in retirement, he couldn't shake off his sense of duty. As he donned his old combat gear, memories of past battles flashed through his mind. The Dravians were formidable opponents, but he had faced worse and emerged victorious. He grabbed his communication device and sent a distress signal to the city's defense forces. However, he knew this wouldn't be enough. Meanwhile, General Vorn, the leader of the Dravian forces, watched the unfolding chaos from his command ship. Confident in his strategy, he anticipated a swift victory. Vorn had meticulously planned the attack on Alaris, believing that the element of surprise would guarantee their success. Little did he know that Alaris had a hidden defender, a man who had seen more battles than most soldiers ever would. Aiden moved through the city with purpose. He contacted the local militia, instructing them to set up defensive positions and prepare for guerrilla tactics. He knew the Dravians would rely on brute force and intimidation, but Alaris had something more. It had people who knew their city inside out and were willing to fight for every inch of it. The streets of Alaris turned into a battlefield. Alien ships hovered above, deploying troops into the streets. The Dravians moved with precision, their advanced weaponry cutting through any resistance. But Aiden had anticipated their moves. He coordinated hit-and-run attacks, using the city's intricate network of alleys and underground passages to their advantage. Every corner turned into a potential ambush, every rooftop a vantage point. As the battle raged on, Aiden realized they needed more than just clever tactics. They needed reinforcements. He activated his communication device, sending out a single, coded message: activate Echo Protocol. This was a last resort measure, a call for help that went beyond the city's borders. What followed was a sequence of events that would turn the tide of the battle in ways the Dravians could never predict. In the midst of the chaos, Aiden found himself face to face with a squad of Dravian soldiers. His training took over. He moved swiftly, using his environment to his advantage. He ducked behind cover, firing shots with deadly accuracy. The Dravians, though well-equipped, were not prepared for such fierce resistance from a single human. As Aiden took down the last of the squad, he heard a familiar hum in the air. Reinforcements had arrived, but not in the way the Dravians expected. Echo Protocol had been activated, and now, the battle for Alaris would truly begin. The city's defense forces, along with unexpected allies, began to converge on the invaders, ready to turn the tide. The night was far from over, and the silent siege was about to become anything but silent. The Echo Protocol had called forth a response that would test the resolve of both defenders and attackers alike. The city of Alaris, with its towering buildings and neon lights, was about to witness a battle for its very soul. Captain Aiden Cross stood on the rooftop, watching as the first wave of reinforcements arrived. The Echo Protocol, a failsafe designed for emergencies just like this, had been activated. From the outskirts of Alaris, a series of rapid response units, both military and civilian, began to mobilize. Drones buzzed overhead, relaying real-time data back to command centers scattered throughout the city. The Dravians, confident in their initial assault, were caught off guard by the sudden influx of organized resistance. What they had expected to be an easy conquest was quickly turning into a protracted battle. Aiden's strategic mind went into overdrive. He coordinated with the newly arrived forces, using the city's communication network to relay orders and positions. As the reinforcements poured in, so did the civilians' hope. People who had been hiding in fear started to see a glimmer of resistance forming. Small pockets of civilian fighters, inspired by the growing defense, began to take up arms. Makeshift barricades were erected in the streets, and the once silent night was filled with the sounds of conflict and resistance. In a hidden command center beneath the city, Aiden connected with General Harper, the leader of the rapid response units. Harper, a seasoned veteran with a reputation for quick thinking and decisive action, immediately understood the gravity of the situation. "Cross, we've got your signal. Reinforcements are en route, but we need to hold the perimeter. What's the current status?" Aiden responded, his voice calm and authoritative. "Dravians have a foothold in the eastern sector. We're focusing on guerrilla tactics to disrupt their advances. We need heavy artillery support on the main avenues to prevent them from consolidating their forces." General Harper nodded, the image of the besieged city displayed on the screens around her. "Understood. I'll deploy the artillery units. Hold your position, Captain. We're bringing the fight to them." The streets of Alaris became a chaotic battleground. Aiden's forces engaged in hit-and-run tactics, drawing the Dravians into ambushes and traps. The alien invaders, despite their superior technology, found themselves struggling against the unpredictable human tactics. Every time they tried to jam the communications, it backfired spectacularly, summoning even more reinforcements. General Vorn, now visibly frustrated, ordered his commanders to change tactics. "Increase the jamming frequency. Cut off their communications entirely," he barked. But each attempt to isolate the human forces only brought more of them to the fray. The Dravians' superior numbers and technology were being outmaneuvered by sheer human tenacity and ingenuity. In the midst of this chaos, Aiden moved through the city like a ghost. His intimate knowledge of Alaris layout allowed him to stay one step ahead of the enemy. He coordinated ambushes, set up sniper nests, and ensured that every street and alley was a potential death trap for the invaders. As dawn approached, the tide of battle began to shift. The Dravian forces, exhausted and demoralized by the relentless attacks, started to show signs of faltering. Reinforcements from neighboring cities and even off-world colonies began to arrive, drawn by the Echo Protocol's distress signal. What had started as a desperate defense was turning into a full-scale counteroffensive. Aiden stood atop a makeshift command post, surveying the battlefield. The Echo Protocol had done more than just bring reinforcements. It had united the people of Alaris and their allies in a common cause. He watched as the Dravians were pushed back, their initial advantage slipping away with every passing moment. General Harper's voice crackled through the communication link. "Captain Cross, we've got them on the run. Excellent work. We'll mop up the remaining forces and secure the city." Aiden allowed himself a rare moment of relief. "Good to hear, General. Let's finish this." As the first rays of sunlight broke through the skyline, the defenders of Alaris prepared for the final push. The battle was far from over, but the activation of Echo Protocol had given them the edge they needed. The city of Alaris, once on the brink of destruction, now stood as a symbol of resilience and unity. The real challenge, however, was just beginning. Aiden knew that the Dravians would not take this defeat lightly. But for now, they had won a crucial victory, and Alaris was still standing. Captain Aiden Cross had always thrived in the shadows. Even during his active service, his reputation was built on his ability to outthink and outmaneuver his enemies. As the dust settled over Alaris, he found himself reflecting on the path that had brought him here. The city had held, but at a great cost. Buildings were damaged, and lives were lost. But the spirit of Alaris remained unbroken. Aiden took a moment to catch his breath in a small, hidden command post beneath the city streets. The walls were adorned with maps, tactical plans, and live feeds from various points around the city. His eyes scanned the data, noting the positions of both allied and enemy forces. His mind never rested, always calculating the next move. The reinforcements had arrived just in time, but they needed to consolidate their gains and prepare for any counterattacks. Aiden knew the Dravians wouldn't retreat easily. They were a proud and relentless species, and their leader, General Vorn, was not one to accept defeat. Aiden's thoughts were interrupted by a soft chime from his communication device. General Harper's face appeared on the screen, her expression a mix of concern and determination. Captain Cross, we've secured the eastern sector, but reports indicate that Dravian forces are regrouping outside the city. We need to fortify our defenses and prepare for another assault. Aiden nodded. Understood, General. I'll coordinate with the local militia and ensure we're ready for anything. We need to maintain the initiative and keep them off balance. As he disconnected, Aiden turned to his team. These were men and women he had trained personally, a group of elite fighters known as the Shadows. Each member was skilled in urban combat and guerrilla warfare, capable of turning the tide of battle with their precision and stealth. Listen up, Aiden began, his voice steady and commanding. The Dravians are regrouping. We need to make sure they don't get a chance to strike back. We'll hit their supply lines, disrupt their communications, and keep them guessing. Move out and stay sharp. The Shadows dispersed, blending seamlessly into the cityscape. Aiden knew that the key to victory lay not just in brute force but in intelligence and adaptability. He had always believed that battles were won in the mind before they were won on the field. As he moved through the city, Aiden's mind wandered back to his early days in the military. He had been a young officer, eager to prove himself. His superiors had quickly noticed his knack for unconventional tactics. Over the years, he had honed his skills, becoming a master of deception and strategy. The Echo Protocol was his brainchild, a last-ditch measure designed to rally forces in times of dire need. Tonight, it had done just that. But Aiden knew they couldn't rely on it forever. The Dravians were learning, adapting. He had to stay one step ahead. In the shadows of a bombed-out building, Aiden observed a group of Dravian soldiers. They were setting up a forward base, their alien technology glowing eerily in the darkness. He signaled to his team, and within moments, the Shadows had surrounded the enemy. With silent efficiency, they struck, taking down the Dravians before they had a chance to react. Aiden moved in, inspecting the equipment. Among the debris, he found a communication device, still intact. He quickly scanned its contents, his eyes narrowing as he deciphered the Dravian language. They were planning a major assault at dawn, a last-ditch effort to take the city by storm. Returning to his command post, Aiden relayed the information to General Harper. We have their plans. They're coming at dawn with everything they've got. We need to be ready. Harper's response was immediate. We'll fortify our positions and prepare for their attack. We've sent word to our off-world allies for additional support. Hold the line, Captain. As dawn approached, Aiden prepared for the inevitable clash. The city of Alaris was battered but unbroken. Its people, rallied by the Echo Protocol and led by their unseen defender, stood ready to face the next wave. Aiden knew that the coming battle would be their hardest yet, but with the Shadows by his side and the spirit of Alaris behind him, he was prepared to defend his city to the last. The first light of dawn illuminated the city, casting long shadows over the battlefield. Aiden took a deep breath, his resolve hardening. The Dravians were coming, but this time, Alaris was ready. The first rays of dawn filtered through the towering skyscrapers of Alaris, casting a pale light on the war-torn streets. The city, a blend of old-world architecture and cutting-edge technology, now stood as a battlefield ready for the next phase of conflict. The anticipation was palpable as both defenders and invaders prepared for the clash. Captain Aiden Cross stood on a rooftop, overlooking the city. His mind was racing, piecing together the final elements of his defense strategy. He knew the Dravians were coming in full force, and the only way to counter their assault was through superior tactics and precise execution. His eyes scanned the horizon, searching for the first signs of movement. General Harper's voice came through his earpiece, breaking the silence. Captain, all units are in position. The militia and rapid response teams are ready. Any last-minute adjustments? Aiden took a moment before responding. Ensure all sniper nests are camouflaged and our ambush points are well concealed. We need to lure them in and hit them hard where they least expect it. Keep our communications secure and maintain radio silence unless absolutely necessary. Understood, Captain. Good luck. As the sun rose higher, the Dravian forces began their advance. From his vantage point, Aiden could see their troops moving with military precision. Hovercrafts buzzed above, and ground units marched in tight formation. The Dravians had brought their heaviest artillery, clearly intent on breaking through Alaris's defenses once and for all. Aiden's heart pounded as he watched the enemy approach. He knew that the coming hours would determine the fate of Alaris. He signaled his team, and the shadows moved into their positions, blending seamlessly with the urban environment. Every alley, every rooftop, and every hidden nook was now a potential ambush point. The first wave of Dravian soldiers entered the city. Aiden gave the order, and a carefully coordinated series of explosions rocked the streets. Buildings crumbled, creating barriers and funneling the enemy into narrow choke points. The Dravians, momentarily stunned, regrouped quickly, but the element of surprise had given the defenders a crucial advantage. Sniper fire rang out, picking off Dravian officers and disrupting their command structure. The shadows moved like phantoms, striking swiftly and disappearing before the enemy could react. Aiden directed the battle from his rooftop perch, his strategic mind constantly adapting to the fluid situation. Despite their initial setbacks, the Dravians pressed on, their superior numbers and technology beginning to take a toll on the defenders. Aiden could see the strain on his forces, but he also saw their determination. The people of Alaris fought with a fierceness born of desperation and pride. This was their home, and they would not surrender it easily. General Vorn, observing the battle from his command ship, grew increasingly frustrated. His forces were being bogged down by the humans' guerrilla tactics. He ordered his elite troops to break through the enemy lines and capture the key defensive positions. "Take out their leaders," he commanded. "Without direction, they will fall." Aiden anticipated this move. He had placed decoys and false command posts throughout the city to mislead the Dravians. As Vorn's elite troops moved in, they were met with deadly traps and concentrated fire. The Dravians' attempt to decapitate the leadership backfired, further demoralizing their ranks. The battle raged on, a brutal and relentless struggle. Aiden coordinated hit-and-run attacks, using the city's intricate network of tunnels and passageways to outflank the enemy. Every time the Dravians thought they had gained ground, they were met with a new wave of resistance. The defenders of Alaris fought with a unity and resilience that no invader could break. Hours passed, and the sun climbed higher, casting harsh shadows over the battlefield. The Dravians, worn down by the relentless assaults, began to falter. Aiden sensed the shift in momentum. He knew this was their moment to strike decisively. "All units," he called over the secure channel. "Push forward. Drive them out." With a coordinated surge, the defenders launched their counterattack. The Dravians, caught off guard by the sudden aggression, were pushed back. General Vorn, realizing the battle was slipping away, ordered a retreat. His forces, once so confident of victory, now scrambled to escape the city. As the Dravians fled, the people of Alaris let out a collective cheer. They had defended their home and driven out the invaders. The battle was over, but the cost had been high. The city lay in ruins, and many lives had been lost. But Alaris had stood its ground, thanks to the bravery of its defenders and the strategic genius of Captain Aiden Cross. Aiden watched the retreating Dravians from his rooftop perch. He knew that this victory, while significant, was just one battle in a larger war. The Dravians would be back, and next time, they would be even more determined. But for now, Alaris was safe. As the sun set, casting a golden glow over the battered city, Aiden allowed himself a moment of quiet reflection. He thought of the sacrifices made and the bravery shown by everyone who had fought to defend their home. Alaris had survived, and with it, the spirit of its people. The Battle of Wits had been won, but the war was far from over. Aiden knew that he and the people of Alaris would need to remain vigilant and united for the challenges ahead. But for tonight, they could rest, knowing that they had faced the darkness and emerged victorious. The streets of Alaris were filled with the remnants of battle. Smoke hung in the air, mingling with the smell of scorched metal and the acrid tang of spent ammunition. Yet, amidst the destruction, there was a palpable sense of relief and victory. The Dravian forces were retreating, their once coordinated assault now reduced to a chaotic withdrawal. Captain Aiden Cross knew, however, that this was no time to let their guard down. From his vantage point on the rooftop, Aiden could see the retreating enemy forces. His mind raced, calculating the best way to capitalize on their disarray. The defenders of Alaris had fought bravely, but they were exhausted and in desperate need of rest and medical attention. Still, the opportunity to deliver a decisive blow to the Dravians was too great to ignore. General Harper's voice crackled through his earpiece. "Captain Cross, we're receiving reports that the Dravians are regrouping outside the city. They might attempt another assault or, worse, try to cut off our supply lines. What's the plan?" Aiden responded without hesitation. "We need to press our advantage and ensure they can't mount another attack. I'll lead a strike team to hit their regrouping point. We can disrupt their plans and buy us some time to fortify our defenses." "Understood. I'll coordinate with the rapid response teams to support your efforts. Good luck, Captain." Aiden rallied his shadows, the elite fighters who had been instrumental in defending the city. They moved swiftly and silently through the rubble-strewn streets, heading towards the edge of Alaris where the Dravians were gathering. The element of surprise was still on their side. As they approached the enemy camp, Aiden signaled his team to spread out and take up positions. The Dravians, busy tending to their wounded and reorganizing their forces, were unaware of the imminent threat. Aiden's plan was simple but effective. Hit them hard and fast, create chaos, and then disappear before they could retaliate. With a nod, Aiden initiated the attack. Explosions erupted within the Dravian ranks, and sniper fire picked off key targets. The shadows moved with lethal precision, sowing confusion and panic among the enemy. The Dravians, already demoralized from their failed assault on the city, were thrown into further disarray. In the midst of the chaos, Aiden spotted General Vorn, barking orders and trying to rally his troops. The sight of the Dravian leader fueled Aiden's resolve. He knew that taking out Vorn would deal a significant blow to the enemy's morale and command structure. With calculated precision, Aiden moved through the battlefield, his eyes locked on his target. Vorn, sensing the danger, turned just in time to see Aiden closing in. The two locked eyes, and for a moment, time seemed to stand still. Aiden charged forward, his movements swift and decisive. Vorn raised his weapon, but Aiden was faster. A well-aimed shot from Aiden's rifle struck Vorn, causing the Dravian general to stagger and fall. With their leader down, the remaining Dravian forces were thrown into chaos. The shadows pressed their advantage, pushing the enemy into a full retreat. The battle was fierce, but the outcome was clear. The Dravians were broken, their will to fight shattered. Aiden stood over the fallen general, his breathing heavy. He knew that this victory, while significant, was just another step in the larger conflict. The Dravians would regroup and return, but for now, Alaris had bought itself some precious time. Returning to the city, Aiden and his team were met with cheers and gratitude from the citizens of Alaris. The people had endured much, but their spirit remained unbroken. As they celebrated their hard-won victory, Aiden couldn't help but think of the challenges that still lay ahead. The Dravians were a relentless foe, and the war was far from over. General Harper contacted him again, her voice carrying a mix of relief and concern. "Captain, you've done an incredible job. Alaris owes you a great debt, but we can't rest just yet. We need to fortify our defenses and prepare for the next wave." Aiden nodded, his mind already racing with plans. "Agreed. We need to reinforce our positions and ensure that our supply lines are secure. I'll coordinate with the local militia and set up patrols around the city. We'll be ready for whatever comes next." As the sun set over the city, casting long shadows over the battlefield, Aiden took a moment to reflect. The battle for Alaris had been brutal, but they had emerged victorious. The turning tide had given them a chance to regroup and prepare for the future. With a renewed sense of purpose, Aiden and the people of Alaris began the arduous task of rebuilding and fortifying their city. They knew that the Dravians would return, but they were determined to stand their ground. The Echo Protocol had proven its worth, and now it was time to ensure that Alaris would be ready for whatever lay ahead. The battle for Alaris had ended, but the scars it left behind were a stark reminder of the cost of war. The city, once a bustling hub of activity, now bore the marks of conflict. Buildings lay in ruins, streets were littered with debris, and the air was thick with the scent of smoke and dust. Yet, amidst the destruction, there was an undeniable sense of resilience and hope. Captain Aiden Cross walked through the streets, surveying the damage. His heart ached at the sight of the wounded and the grieving, but he knew that this was only the beginning of their recovery. The people of Alaris had proven their strength, and now it was time to rebuild. Aiden felt a deep sense of responsibility to ensure that their sacrifices had not been in vain. General Harper joined him, her expression somber but determined. "Captain, the cleanup and reconstruction efforts are underway. We've received support from neighboring cities and even some off-world colonies. Everyone wants to help Alaris get back on its feet." Aiden nodded, grateful for the support. "That's good to hear. We need to make sure our defenses are stronger than ever. The Dravians will return, and we need to be ready." Harper placed a hand on his shoulder. "You did an incredible job, Aiden. Without you, Alaris would have fallen. But you're right, we need to stay vigilant. I've already started coordinating with our allies to set up a permanent defense network around the city." Aiden took a deep breath, his mind already working on the next steps. "We need to improve our intelligence and surveillance. The more we know about the Dravians' movements, the better we can prepare. And we need to ensure that the Echo Protocol is always ready to be activated." As they walked through the city, they saw teams of workers clearing rubble, repairing infrastructure, and setting up temporary shelters for those who had lost their homes. The citizens of Alaris were resilient, determined to rebuild their lives and their city. Aiden couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in their resolve. In a makeshift hospital, Aiden visited the wounded soldiers and civilians. He offered words of encouragement, his presence a reminder that they were not alone in their struggle. The gratitude in their eyes was humbling, and it strengthened his resolve to protect Alaris at all costs. One of the soldiers, a young woman with bandaged arms, looked up at him with determination. "Captain Cross, we won't let the Dravians take our home. We'll fight with you until the end." Aiden smiled, moved by her spirit. "And I'll be right there with you. Together, we'll ensure that Alaris remains strong." As night fell, Aiden returned to his command post. He sat down, reviewing reports and making plans for the future. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. The Dravians would regroup and return, and they needed to be ready for whatever came next. His thoughts were interrupted by a message from General Harper. "Aiden, we've detected unusual activity on the Outer Rim. It looks like the Dravians are mobilizing again. We need to be prepared for another assault." Aiden's eyes narrowed as he processed the information. "Understood, General. We'll be ready. Activate the Echo Protocol and alert our allies. Alaris will not fall." As he ended the call, Aiden stood and looked out over the city. The lights of Alaris twinkled in the darkness, a testament to the indomitable spirit of its people. He knew that the road ahead would be difficult, but he was confident that they would prevail. In the distance, the first light of dawn began to break, casting a golden glow over the city. Aiden took a deep breath, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. The battle for Alaris was far from over, but he was ready for the challenges that lay ahead. The Echo Protocol had given them a fighting chance, and with the support of their allies and the strength of their people, they would face the future with courage and determination. As the sun rose, Aiden turned away from the window, ready to lead his city into whatever battles awaited. Alaris had survived, and with its defenders standing vigilant, it would continue to stand strong against any threat. As dawn broke over Alaris, Captain Aiden Cross received a message. "New threat detected on the Outer Rim." He sighed, knowing the battle was far from over. But for now, Alaris was safe, and the Echo Protocol had proven its worth. Thank you for joining us on this thrilling journey through the battle for Alaris. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss an adventure from the Sci-Fi Story Vault. And if you're craving more excitement, click on the video suggested on the screen to dive into another epic sci-fi tale. Your next adventure awaits.